everybody. This is the Rambling Cinephiles. Today we're going to be talking about ThePost, which is part of our EveryFilm2018 project, which, as it sounds, is about us watching every film in 2018. Spoiler alert, as always. And Josh, do you want to talk to us about what the movie's about?
Sure. So, again, please go see the movie before you actually listen to us. The Post is about the Washington Post and the Pentagon Papers. It's a movie about how the Washington Post is put into the precarious situation of being this kind of low-tier trash, newspaper, one that didn't get a lot of recognition and was not very well funded, and it's put in the position of not having any more funding because they get access to these papers that are leaked from the Pentagon, and they're put between a sort of rock and a hard place where if they go against the Nixon administration, they could all be prosecuted and lose a whole bunch of money. But if they don't release those papers that show that Nixon and JFK and Lyndon Johnson and all these presidents before him knew that the Vietnam War was not only unwinnable, but that they crafted the war 20 years before it actually started. They were going to rig elections, they were going to make Vietnam go into massive debt, they were going to control every aspect of that country, and long after the war was unwinnable, they kept sending soldiers over just because they didn't want to look like they couldn't win a war. And that's the position that the Post is put in, and it's a very interesting movie. It's one that is very informative and one that really strikes a chord at our current political situation. But the plot of it we can go over together, Jenny, but it's a movie starring Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, a bunch of people that I can't even go into. I'm sure we'll talk about all of the guest stars in it, but it's made by Steven Spielberg.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's fair to say it was a trash paper.
Well, it was one that didn't have a lot of recognition, one that wasn't known for its news. It was I don't know, that kind of makes it sound like it wasn't reputable. It's not that it wasn't reputable, it just didn't have the same, the acclaim that it has now. Yeah.
It wasn't, on the level of the New York Times. It was, on a slightly higher level than, your average local paper.
Well, apparently not, considering that they were running out of money and had to open up the company for public bidding.
True. Well, I meant, journalistically, it was probably on a slightly higher level than your average paper.
I think before Tom Hanks's character becomes, the head editor, it wasn't known for any kind of journalistic integrity.
True. Still, I wouldn't call a local paper trash. I would call, In Touch Weekly trash. I wouldn't call...
Well, now, yeah.
I wouldn't call, the Podunk Town Times trash.
Podunk Town Times.
I mean...
Well, it was a local paper, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't something was... Yeah. It wasn't like the New York Times at that point. It was one that wasn't widely distributed until the Pentagon Papers came out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I sniffled.
Don't sniffle.
I'm sorry.
Jenny, do you want to go, do we need to go into a whole big spiel about the actual plot of the movie?
I think so. Okay, so Meryl Streep plays Katharine Graham, and she is the owner of the Washington Post. She inherited it from her husband, who inherited it from her father. And she's definitely kind of out of her depth. She's raised very affluently. She never had to actually work before. And she's not really used to telling a bunch of dudes what to do. Which I thought was interesting. I mean, it's kind of easy for us now to look at a woman who's oh, I'm afraid to talk around the men, is oh, what's wrong with you? But I mean, she grew up in a time when that was normal, when that was, what you were not that we're not socialized to do that now, but it was even worse back then. And she owns the paper, and Tom Hanks is her editor. She doesn't actually like write the paper or anything. She just owns it. And the New York Times runs the story on this first, and the Nixon administration shuts them down. Right. Basically, they say, like, they put an injunction on them, you can't print this. And so the Post gets the papers and prints them anyway, and that's pretty much... Yeah,
that's the crux of the movie is trying to figure out, should they print them or not.
Yeah, and you should.
Obviously you absolutely should, because as it says in the movie, the press is in the business of protecting the people, not the governors. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just can't imagine living in a world where the president was, like, attacking journalists and trying to, inhibit the freedom of the press and holding mock fake news awards on the TV.
Okay, let's go into all of the current let's go into all of the current news at the end of the podcast.
Can you guys guess our political leanings?
I promise we will talk about it all, Jennifer.
Okay.
At the end of the podcast.
Okay.
Let's talk about the movie for what it is right
now. Yes, okay.
So that's your point about Catherine not being used to telling people what to do, being a sort of made woman.
Yeah.
That was an aspect of the movie that I was not expecting. I was expecting the political intrigue, the Nixon and that era, and Tom Hanks being wonderful as always, but I was not expecting the feminist message in the movie, which was something that was just like this movie does a lot of things right, and the feminist message in it, they did wonderfully.
And see, I was expecting the feminist message, but I thought it was going to be a lot more, I don't know, heavy-handed girl power from the trailer. That's kind of what I expected, and I like that it was this very, like, I don't know. I don't want to say organic. That's not the right word.
Well, like, Catherine didn't expect to be put in this situation. She wasn't expecting to be in this position of power, and she wants to make the right decision for her paper and for the public at large, and that she disregards the opinions of everyone else or everyone else that disagrees with her, not because they're men and she's a woman, but because it's the right thing to do.
Right, yeah.
And that's the part that I really enjoyed. It wasn't, like you said, some girl power fantasy. It was her doing what she needs to do to be a good journalist.
I did like that I did like there was this running thing throughout the movie where basically all the guys would constantly talk over Catherine and interrupt her a lot, and I enjoyed the scene where she's finally like, no, I'm talking. She does like the old lady hand up thing, like, no.
God,
that was so great.
Meryl Streep is just a treat. She is a wonderful woman. I wish we had more Meryl Streeps in the world.
I was thinking while I was watching it, like, I was trying to imagine a different actress in that role, and I honestly, like, I think that role was just made for Meryl Streep. Like, I don't think another actress could have pulled it off the way that she did.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there's no one else.
So yeah, Meryl Streep. I was gonna make. Oh, speaking of women, this is probably like my only complaint about it, and I guess it's not a huge complaint. Is that I think that Sarah Paulson was wasted in the background.
Which one was Sarah Paulson?
Sarah Paulson's Tom Hanks's wife.
Oh yeah. I did notice her.
Yeah.
But she didn't do anything. She was just a kind of.
She didn't have a whole lot of lines.
Yeah, she didn't do. She served sandwiches, which seemed kind of counterproductive to that feminist message of the movie.
I mean, they really only had like a handful of characters. And she did have that bit where she's talking to Tom Hanks about how you know, this is such a bigger deal for Catherine, because unlike him, where like, you know, publishing this is only going to make other reporters respect him, and if he loses this job, he's always going to be able to find another one. This is like, this paper is not only is she responsible for all these people, but this is like her family's legacy. This, if the paper goes under, it means she's failing her husband, she's failing her dad, and she's going to lose everything.
Right. She's not only failing her legacy, she's failing everyone under her. She's failing her children and their financial future, and their reputation. And she cannot, like, doing the right thing for a woman in that position in the 70s is not the same thing as Tom Hanks doing the right thing. And it was incredibly brave. It was a very great story from her. So, like, this is just a kind of random thought that I had while watching it. I never want Meryl Streep to smile at me in that creepy way that she does to those who have disrespected her in this movie. Like, it is so fucking frightening.
I love those smiles, and it's the bitchy white lady smile.
It is
the bitchy white lady smile. Like, it looks, on its surface, if you don't know how to interpret it, it looks really nice. But if you know what it means, bitch, I would cut you if there weren't witnesses right now. I would be chopping you up into little pieces and burying you in my garden. So fun fact, Bob Odenkirk and Jesse Plemons are both in this movie, Saul and Todd from Breaking Bad, respectively. They do have a scene together. I was trying to remember if they ever had a scene together in Breaking Bad. I don't think that they did.
I honestly don't think that they ever meet in the show.
I don't remember Saul and Todd ever talking to each other. Man, Jesse Plemons is getting a lot of work all of a sudden. He really is.
He was in Black Mirror.
He's in Hostels. He's gonna be in that game night movie that we haven't talked about yet.
That's right. I mean,
we'll talk about eventually.
He's getting work, man.
He is. Good for him.
He deserves it. He's a good actor.
He does. He does a good actor.
He does a good actor. Todd is shit, though. Fuck Todd.
Yeah, oh yeah, fuck Todd.
Todd deserves to fucking die, and I'm glad he died at the end of Breaking Bad.
That was like the one thing that I wanted. Well, other than for Jesse to be happy.
Yeah.
And to get away.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Sorry. Our next series, the Breaking Bad podcast.
I'm sure that would go over pretty well. So, something else, another theme running through this movie is how incestuous governors, like politicians, people in power are with the press. They make friends with the people who are going to write about them.
Yeah. Which is smart.
Catherine was really good friends with the former Secretary of Defense, McNamara, who the Pentagon Papers are about, and that conflict of interest, the fact that she was friends with the main person who hid the futility of the Vietnam War from the public, is not lost on the movie, and they address it very well. Meryl Streep's Catherine and McNamara have a wonderful scene where they talk about it, and it's just great. And Tom Hanks has the same sort of relationship, or had the same sort of relationship with JFK, and that's addressed as well. And they talk about how yes, they started out as friends, but once they each achieved their offices, that could no longer happen. They could no longer be friends anymore.
Yeah.
And after JFK's assassination, Jackie Kennedy came up to Tom Hanks's character, whose name I am blanking. What was his name? Ben, I think.
Was it Ben? Tom Hanks. He did a good job. I just don't remember his name.
Yeah, he's the head editor of the paper. But Jackie Kennedy came up to him after JFK's assassination and was talking, how horrified and sad she was, and she was like, none of this can ever be published. And that struck Tom Hanks's character like, oh, I was never going to report about that. Mm-hmm. And that just shows that there is a distinction between politicians and the press, and how one tries to control the other, and how important it is that the press is a check on that power.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great thread that the movie weaved, and it was great. Another great part of The Post.
It was great. Who else was in it? The Tobias from Arrested Development was in it.
Which is really cool because Tobias and Bob Odenkirk have a show together.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the name.
Wait,
of
do
it.
they?
Yeah, they did.
It's not the Margaret. Is not that one.
No.
It's not that one.
Cut this, Josh.
Okay.
Cut this as I look up the name of the show.
Oh, I guess I don't. Oh, so the source, who got the papers was played by the husband from The Americans, Mr. Felicity. I can't remember. What's his character's name now? In The Americans, what was his character's name?
The name of that show was Mr. Show with Bob and David.
Oh. Okay.
And
Smart.
The Americans. This is why we have smartphones. Philip Jenkins.
Okay, yes.
So, answering your questions, Mr. Show and Philip Jenkins. But no, he was in it, and I was very surprised to see him because I really love him in The Americans. I love everything about The Americans. You should go watch The Americans.
Yes, you should.
It's like 6 seasons long. I think we're in season 4, something like that.
Yeah. We gotta catch up.
Anyway, he was in it, and he was great too. Everyone in this fucking movie was wonderful. Something else that really struck me about the movie were a few scenes of Kay's transformation from this meek woman into the powerful woman she became. At first, in the boardroom where they're going public with the company, she's told by her confidant, hey, here's what you just need to say. Here's how to say it. You know what to do. And in it, she freezes. And he has to say all of her lines for her to the investors and the board members. And throughout the movie, all of these men are trying to control her, tell her what to do, how to handle her company, make her decisions for her. And there were a couple scenes where, you know what I'm talking about, at the end where she's like, okay, we're going to publish, and I'm going to bed. Good night. that one was wonderful, was great. And the last scene where they're at the Supreme Court, walking out, and the press is gathered around the New York Times trying to get their statements, and they walk out, and instead of press, there's all these women circled around her as she's walking out. She's this this figure that a powerful woman can exist.
Girl power.
And it was just another great moment. Spielberg just nails those moments on the head. He is a genius. We keep seeing movies by geniuses.
Do we?
What's going to happen when we watch, like, Forever My Girl and we have to tear it apart? It's going to be horrible.
You don't know that it's going to be bad?
Yes,
you
I
don't
do.
know?
Yes, I
Wait,
do.
Okay, Insidious The Last Cue is not a genius movie.
No, but it was not good, but
it does not deserve the crap that it's gotten, in my opinion.
It doesn't. But Forever My Girl is going to deserve that crap.
It might not. I'm gonna try to go in with an open mind. It might be good. I don't think it's gonna be good, but I'm gonna try to think that it will be. We'll be eating our words in just a couple of episodes.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that I'm gonna look back on this podcast and I'm gonna be like, no, Forever My Girl, what a wonderful, touching movie. It was Academy Award winning, a classic. Yep. Okay, I think I'm ready to talk about current politics now. If you are.
Current politics, yay! I'm sure the audience is going to be thrilled about that.
So this movie is probably one of the first of many to come out since 2016, since the election, and compare without actually comparing the Nixon administration with Trump. And the parallels between the two are astounding. Nixon's hatred of the press and how they're in this movie, how he wants to prosecute them for running stories in their paper when, obviously they're protected by the First Amendment.
And the thing is that it wasn't just also just like Trump. This wasn't just like Nixon being pissed off and rightfully concerned that top secret government information was going out. I mean, yes, the government screwed up, but I mean, he would be right to be concerned about that. Like he was barring the Washington Post from his daughter's wedding because he didn't like the reporter that they sent.
And that sounds exactly like something Trump would do.
It does.
That sounds exactly like what is happening right now with this, fake news brigade bullshit.
When did I'm looking up when principal photography on the Post started, because I want to know like when they actually started filming it. Began in May 2017. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and it premiered in December. So basically like the latter half of 2017 was when they filmed it.
I know you have more to say. Go ahead.
What? Oh, do I have constructive things to say?
In relation to this movie with the current presidency.
Just that it's, I don't know, in a lot of ways. Okay, I'm going to say that their situation was better because in the same situation now, I do not have faith that the Supreme Court would rule in the Post's favor were this happening now. Do you?
I honestly don't know. I think that we have the benefit of the Supreme Court having ruled on something like this in the past before.
Yeah.
So
true.
that may save us should this ever happen again, but like let's say that everything in the Trump dossier is true, and that let's say we get a P tape or something like that is leaked to the Washington Post, and the Post publishes it, and Trump's administration takes them to court saying, oh hey, this damages the president's image, how can he govern when this horrible thing that is obviously fake totally is being put out to the public. And then they go to the court and to the Supreme Court, and how do they decide?
And of course this is also, we're living in a post Gawker like world too. I mean, like how much, like I read that someone pointed this out, that because I'm sure everybody's heard about the Trump Stormy Daniels stuff. I don't care, whatever. But that Fox News and actually other outlets had the story back in 2016 and didn't run it. And somebody pointed out that like if Gawker hadn't gotten sued and taken out, basically, I mean they're still kind of around, but not to the degree that they were.
Yeah.
That like that might not have happened. They might have run with it.
Yeah. They may have. Like that's what scares me the most, is that our government is hidden behind these walls that we can't access, that no one in the regular public has time to actually go out and interview people at positions of power, and that's what the press is supposed to do for us.
Right.
And if they fail in checking the powers of the people who make the decisions for us, we are left powerless.
Right.
And that's something that this movie tries to talk about a lot,
Mhm.
and that's something that I feel is most concerning when I see our president on Twitter talking about how about how CNN isn't a real news organization.
Yeah, we're like 2 steps away from Breitbart being the only one that has a freaking press badge.
Like just last week, to give you some perspective, they threw out CNN's I think his name is Jim Acosta from the White House press room because he was asking Trump about immigration. A hot topic that is probably going to cause a government shutdown tomorrow, and they threw him out because Trump didn't want to answer the question, and Acosta refused to let him not answer it, like a good journalist should do. We need to know how he feels about this important topic, and he threw him out. What kind of precedence does that set?
Mm-hmm.
If we start talking about the dossier or Mueller or Russia, is he gonna throw every reporter out that disagrees with him on the wall or on welfare?
Well, how dare anyone disagree with him? Because, he's a toad.
It's just, it's frustrating that we are going through all of these motions again.
Yep.
And that we cannot depend on the others who are in power to check a president who starts abusing his powers. We cannot depend on Congress to check his power. We cannot depend on the press to check his power, especially if the presidency is being abused to the point where he's controlling all of the information.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing it back to the movie, that's something that is brought up. If the Post runs with the Pentagon Papers story, Nixon's going to use every power given to him by the Constitution to ensure that everyone at the Post, Tom Hanks's character, Meryl Streep's character, everyone who ran with the story, the reporters, the investors, they all go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
They all lose everything. Their lives are destroyed because of a bad news cycle for the president.
Yep.
And that scares the hell out of me.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went on a rant. I rambled.
We don't like Trump, in case you couldn't tell. It's really great not liking Trump and living in Mississippi. It's pretty great. Although where we live isn't bad. We're in a kind of a purple oasis.
Yeah, we live in probably one of the more, I wouldn't say progressive, but more left-leaning parts of the state.
Yeah, it's a college town. It usually leans red because it's also it's a college town, but it also doubles as a retirement town, so it leans red. But it's not a bad place, really.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't want to live here forever.
No.
Let me go through a few quotes that I really liked in the movie. So, there was one where McNamara is telling Catherine that Nixon will come after her with the full power of his presidency, and he's like, there are bad people around Nixon, and that just, like, again, this movie telling you about the current political climate without actually saying the word. They mentioned the word collusion in the movie, talking about how the Post is colluding, legally with the New York Times by using the same source and violating an injunction. That's the reason they could all go to jail. The let's publish by Catherine was great. It was so satisfying to hear that. Press serve the governed, not the governors. Another great.
That was good.
Line. I really enjoyed the use of the real Nixon tapes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great
yeah,
touch.
that was good. Oh, and it ends with so like after it happens and the Post wins and they don't all go to jail. There's Nixon's kind of in it. Like, you see the back of him, but they're playing like the actual tapes, like the actual Nixon tapes. And he's talking about how, he doesn't want any reporters from the Washington Post anywhere ever and all that stuff. And then it ends with Watergate, with the security guard finding the break-in.
Yep.
Finding the break-in at Watergate. So yeah. Yeah,
And,
that was pretty cool.
I mean, again, not to go into more politics crap, but the only reason that Watergate had any consequences for Nixon was because 2 years later, they elected a Democratic legislature.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, 2018, midterms coming up. Mueller investigation gearing even harder. They just made Steve Bannon talk to him.
Has he already talked?
Yeah, he agreed to an interview with Mueller.
Well, you don't agree to a subpoena. You just go.
The subpoena was a bargaining tactic to say, hey, you're going to talk to us no matter what. And Bannon agreed. That way he can have his lawyer in the same room. Because in a grand jury, you can't. That's smart.
I don't know. Like, I have. This has nothing to do with the movie. This is just about politics. We can cut this if you want. I have differing, like, because, like, I read somebody say that he's gonna use this to say stuff that Trump's gonna like to try to like garner favor with Trump, and I am still very much of the opinion that Bannon is the kind of person who will burn it all down just out of spite. Like, he's not a curry favor kind of human.
No.
I don't think he cares.
I think if anything, he just wants to save his own ass.
Yeah.
And he'll tell Mueller anything that he can in order to do that.
Because he's got Seinfeld money, doesn't even need Breitbart. Like, what?
It's so crazy to me that he has Seinfeld money, that this anti-Semite has money from Seinfeld.
Yep.
Because he helped produce it, or his company helped produce it. That's incredible.
Yeah, speaking of anti-Semitism, I just realized that this is a very topical, tangentially anti-Trump movie by a Jewish guy.
Yeah, it is.
So, and I don't know if that's a thing alt-right people are talking about, because I don't talk to those people, and frankly, I doubt they go to movies. I don't. They're too stupid.
What kind of entertainment do they look at?
I don't know. South Park porn?
What?
I don't know. I don't know what they do.
I don't know either. But I don't know if someone as ignorant as that would even know that Spielberg is Jewish.
No, they know.
I don't know that they would know that Spielberg made this movie.
True. No, I shouldn't say they're all stupid. They're obviously not all stupid. They're just awful.
So final thoughts time. I really enjoyed The Post. It was the movie that I was most excited for in January. And it was basically just, it was incredibly informative. It was well executed technically, and it was topical. Like, it was a movie that puts a mirror up to our current political climate, and it does that without ever telling you that it's doing it. And I loved it. It was wonderful. It was absolutely an easy 4.5 out of 5 for me, just because it's not something that I really want, that I really think I would get anything from going back and watching.
Mm-hmm.
But watching it one time, absolutely enough.
It was great.
It was great.
It was great. Have we rated a movie badly yet?
I mean, we didn't rate Insidious very highly.
Yeah, but we didn't say it was like absolute shit either.
No, we haven't seen a movie that was absolute shit yet.
We promise there are movies we don't like.
Yeah. I do not give everything 4.5 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. Like, there are plenty of movies that are utter crap, but I haven't seen them in January yet.
Yeah. And it's January.
I know, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Okay. What do we think is the next movie that we're gonna see?
I think we're gonna go see The Commuter next.
Liam Neeson on a train.
So that'll be fun.
I think that'll be okay.
I think it's gonna be okay too. I don't have like super high expectations, but I think it will be a fun way to spend 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be fine, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be blown away by it, but I think it'll be fine.
I agree.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble on, dear listener. Thank you for sticking with us. If you like what you're hearing, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to us wherever you are. Follow us on Twitter, which is
At Ramble Cinephile.
we also set up a Patreon if you're so inclined. It's at patreon.com/ramblingcinephiles. And I'll also link it in the description. If you feel like giving us a couple bucks, we would really appreciate it, but no pressure.
We would love you, but we already love you.
We do. You're our favorite listener, whoever
Yes.
you are.
You specifically. You are our favorite listener.
All right, folks. I guess we will talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.